What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today, we have another special guest in the building, former Bethel linebacker great Tim Johnson. This is a guy who I had a couple of battles with, just somebody who was part of that golden era of Tidewater football, the Peninsula District, played for a legendary coach, wore the legendary number 81, which we're going to talk about here in a second, and also was a fierce competitor who really set the tone when he played on Friday nights and Saturday afternoons. Tim Johnson, what's going on?
What's happening, man?
It's good, man. It's good to have you in there, man. You're looking good in that Vicktory Life shirt, man. So
yeah, hey, I love it. I look, you know, it ain't that gold, but red is my favorite color. So I had to cop that red from you.
Yeah, man, I gotta get you some green and gold, man. But speaking of the green and gold, we're gonna have a fun interview today, man. We're gonna talk about where it all started because I knew you as Tim Johnson. We scouted you. We had to block you. You played that 8-man front coming off the edge. Kozlowski and Inconvenience, they moved you all over the field. But before you became Tim Johnson, the all-conference, all-world player at Bethel, everybody has a story. Everybody has a journey. Let's talk about where it all started for you, man. You know, what neighborhood did you grow up in? You know, how was it, you know, for you? Who got you into playing sports? Who impacted you and your family?
Well, I grew up in Tide Mill. I mean, pretty much for the most part. I wasn't born. I was born actually in Tucson, Arizona. So my family, yeah. So I'm from the West Coast. I don't remember none of it. But my family, they military. So I was born at the Air Force Base in Tucson, Davis-Monthan, and then we moved to Hampton. Then we moved a couple other times, moved up here to Maryland. Dad retired, moved to Chicago. So I didn't really get to play organized sports until I was in 7th grade. So I didn't play no sports. I played, you know, with the kids in the neighborhood, and I knew I loved football. But I didn't get, you know, not until like we got stationary and, you know, me and my mom and dad got divorced when I was 7. So by the time we got back to Hampton, she came to Hampton because of a church that she loved so much. So we came back because of the church. Went and lived in Sweetbriar. And my first, yeah, went and lived in Sweetbriar was me and Reggie Pittman. Stayed in the same block. I think Eric Hunter stayed in Brittany, which is the next joint over. But yeah, we used to play football. Like I grew up playing with Reggie, and then moved to Tide Mill after that. So, but my first organized was at Langley, played with Tony Rutland.
Rutland.
Yeah. So Tony, man, me and Tony, we got a long story, bro. I mean, me and Tony played rec league together, high school together, went to the same college, you know, together. So we got a long history right there.
And Tim, tell everybody, because Tony Rutland and Damon Bako were my second ever Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. And
yeah,
they were great. And I'm glad Tony confirmed it. But I tell people now, because we know Tony is a sharpshooter, one of the best shooters in the history of Virginia high school sports. He was a great guard at Wake Forest, battled injuries, but still had a great career. But people don't realize, man, he could play football.
He could play. He was nice. He was sick with it. And I didn't realize until later on why he didn't play football in high school. Like his dad, and I'm glad you had that focus on him and Damon, because them two, I watched them two. They was two years younger than me. I think Damon's a year younger than me. But yeah. I used to watch them, and both of their dads had the same mindset. So they was like the only dads that I knew in Hampton that had their sons at basketball court doing drills. Like they played full court and everything, but they was doing drills at an early age. But Tony was nice with it. He played quarterback. He could have played quarterback. He might have played quarterback for his at Bethel. I think his dad just wanted him to focus on basketball. I think that's what the deal was. But he was nice. He was like that at Langley.
You know, Tim, you talk about
Rodney Bowens.
Rodney Bowens, yeah. Rodney Bowens is like that. Yes, he was. Yes.
Rodney Bowens is like that. And I tried to take his position at quarterback. That wasn't happening.
At quarterback?
Yeah, I went to Langley to play quarterback. Ended up playing middle linebacker. Been middle linebacker ever since. But yeah, I played with Rodney. But yeah, man, played at Langley, learned a lot there. Had a couple of experiences there. I know one time we played Kecoughtan. You know about Kecoughtan.
Mm-hmm.
We played Kecoughtan on Halloween Day. And their head coach came dressed up as a black man with a noose around his neck.
Are you serious?
No bullshit. He had a noose around his neck, he had his face painted, and our coach was this 6'5", 250-pound dude he was like maybe 2 years out of playing for University of Texas, played tight end for Texas. So he wasn't having that, man. They got into a scuffle, everything. It was all bad. But yeah, came to the game with a noose around his neck, man.
I should not be surprised because I grew up down there, not Kecoughtan, but I knew, I tell my 3 children up here in Northern Virginia, we knew there were certain neighborhoods, even back then, even now, you didn't go into them. Kecoughtan was a community I had no interest in going into.
None at all.
A couple of my guys, a couple of my close friends, Brian Marlowe, and them played for Lindsay Tornadoes. And you probably remember Marlowe. He played. That's the guy. That's who you tackled on the goal line. But man, we'll talk about that. We'll
talk about that.
Yeah. But Marlowe and a lot of my guys, I didn't play. I played for Aberdeen, but they told me one time they got into a big brawl with Kecoughtan. It was racially motivated.
I think I heard about that joint. Yeah.
Yeah.
We played against Aberdeen. Played us. We played Aberdeen one time. Man, we got stomped so bad. And this was right after Aberdeen had just already beat somebody. They played somebody at 12 o'clock, beat them, came to Langley. And first play of the game, I'm not sure if Fred Brown was a quarterback. I thought he was, but somebody threw the ball to Bubba Chuck. Bubba Chuck threw like a 60-yard bomb to Reggie Pittman. I was like, damn, this is gonna be a bad day. But yeah, Langley is where I started. And then after that it was Bethel.
So let's talk about Bethel, man. Bethel High School has their own legacies, their own history. Sean Gale, Melendez, Byrd, a lot of great players played at Bethel.
Right.
I've often said, I've gone on record, I've done radio interviews. I say this on Twitter often, on Facebook constantly. The golden era in the 757 for me, and many people have agreed with this, especially when it comes to football, basketball, was, in my humble opinion, maybe 86 to the early 2000s. Especially during the late 90s into the early 2000s, because that time frame, the early 90s, when we played, you had games being moved to the Hampton Coliseum for basketball. Football games between Hampton and Bethel, it was sold out. I mean, there were people sitting on the fence, sitting on top of houses. You go to Bethel High School, what's your mindset? And I asked that question because when I interviewed Damon and Tony Rutland, Marseille Brown, Fazil Abraham, so many great guests, including yourself now on the show, have talked about Tony Jordan from Kecoughtan. Vic, I was just playing. I wanted to be part of the great story. I was never thinking about offers or media interviews. I just wanted to be part of the tradition. When you get to Bethel as a freshman, are you thinking, I'm going to hoop, I'm going to play baseball, basketball, I'm going to win state championships? What's your mindset?
I didn't think none of those things at all. Like my ninth grade year, I didn't even play football. I got into so much trouble in 8th grade. I don't even know how I passed 8th grade. I failed English. I don't even know how I passed 8th grade. It got to 9th grade. My mom didn't let me play football. So I was just there. I was just a student. I was just there. Then the next year, I played my whole entire career. I played to play football. Every time I went to play, I had the same feeling I used to feel when I used to go out playing when I was like in the neighborhood, playing kill the man or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like that's how I felt. And I never even understood like how cats didn't like to practice. Man, I always loved to practice. I didn't like sprints. That I didn't like, but practice was like, man, I get to actually play football 3 to 4 times a week outside of the actual game. You know, and I never understood why cats used to be like, man, I'm giving me a red shirt. I'm gonna give me a injury jersey so I don't have to practice today. I never understood that, man. But that mentality also came from Bethel, but I didn't come into that. I had to learn that. Bethel.
Well, hold on, Tim. Before you talk about what you learned for those great coaches that were at Bethel, I gotta back up for a second because you hit us with a nugget that I don't think many people knew about. You know, I was on the other side of Hampton. You got in a lot of trouble in middle school, 8th grade. What was going on there?
No, I was in trouble 7th grade and 8th grade. It wasn't no real trouble. It was like I was immature. I was a kid.
Yeah.
Always talking, always just getting in trouble, laughing, giggling, doing dumb shit, and just, you know, wasn't stealing or nothing or wilding out like that.
Okay.
But I know the principal, I ain't gonna say his name, the principal at the time of 86 and 87, he made a horrible impression on me, man. He told me I was gonna be a failure. He told me I wasn't nothing because he thought that I didn't come from anything. I don't know what gave him the idea that I came from something. You know, when I used to get in my little bit of trouble, he used to like make it a bigger deal. And he just rubbed me the wrong way. Both those 2 years, man, it just was like, you know, a black man in a position to help somebody out. But every time he had a chance to talk to me, it was just pounding on me, putting me down. So I'm glad I got out of that situation. But I was just doing kid stuff. I wasn't doing anything wild. I wasn't doing no work. But I didn't have like, you know, I didn't have like a father figure growing up, and my mom worked a lot. So I pretty much, like, even when I was in like Sweetbriar, 3rd grade, 4th grade, like I'd be hanging with like it'd be Eric Hunter and them. I'm like in 3rd and 4th grade in the block, just hanging out with them till late at night on school night. You know, I pretty much could do whatever I wanted to do. So 8th grade, I was just played football and got in trouble. That's all I did.
So you let's go back forward to what you were sharing with us about, you know, in 10th grade, now you go out for football. What was going on as far as the expectations for the team? Did you know some of the coaches already? Were they seeing you in the hallway trying to recruit you? Because it's different now. Now, you know, guys go out for a team. They see kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They know about kids because of social media. Parents actually move to neighborhoods to set their children up, whether you agree with it or not. It's just a different dynamic. During our time, it was pretty much, you know, if you were zoned, you went to that school unless you didn't really want to go. But you didn't play your 9th grade year where a lot of guys at Bethel who I knew, friends of yours, friends of mine, I knew at the different, you know,
right,
Northampton, Aberdeen, and Lindsay and all the different schools. How did you fit into that? What you went out, what was going on in your mind?
Pretty much that was just how it was. I mean, I remember because I grew up with Todd Kelly. Todd Kelly's from Todd Mill. Kelly, at that time, my freshman year, Todd Kelly, Melendez, Byrd, Marcus Washington went to UVA. So you had 3 studs, and they looked like studs. But Todd was real close, sort of like, my little brother. He had a lot of little brothers in Todd Mill. But Todd told Kaz about me. But even Todd didn't even really know. He was like, yeah, he's going to play football for you next year. And pretty much I just went out. And it was just like how it started at Langley. It was my first day out there. I'm playing linebacker. I'm not playing no other position. A lot of times I had opportunity to play tight end or whatever. I wanted to play linebacker. That's all I wanted to play. And so I went out there, and there wasn't a whole lot of expectations. Like I said, man, I went out there just to have fun and play football. I didn't know. I knew about the legacy and the players because I grew up. I went to the games. I went to see Hampton play Tab my freshman year, which was like a historical game. I used to go to the Darlin Stadium games and stuff like that. So I knew what it was like, but I never thought I was going to be like a real football player because I was 5'10", about 150 pounds.
Wow.
No doubt. I was 5'10", 150, wet.
What did you know, Tim, what did you know about, because you just brushed over that. I mean, you talked about how great they were, but Todd Kelly, Melendez, Byrd, and Marcus Washington were
on one team.
They were studs.
Studs. You hear me? Just think about it, man. Todd Kelly, 6'4", 240, and he won the state hurdles.
I know.
And he looked, them dudes didn't look like when I came out, it was like, okay, he got to bulk up. These dudes was already big. They was ready to play game one freshman year at whatever college they was at.
And so when you saw Melendez, Byrd, and Todd Kelly and Marcus in those matchups, and you were familiar with the Peninsula District, especially Bethel's traditions and the talent they had, but yet you tried out with no fear, no expectations, no anxiety. You just wanted to play.
Yeah, I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play ball, have fun. There was no expectations. I had no goals, no nothing. I just wanted to play football. And went and tried out for the JV team. I played maybe 3 games, and then Kaz is like, "No, we're gonna pull you up." So I got pulled up to varsity, and that's when he gave me my number. When he gave me 81.
Okay, hold on, because Melendez, Byrd, when I posted that video, because I was playing around, not trolling you, but it was just more so like I was watching that game again. I said, "Oh, I forgot about this play," because you were killing us that night, and I was a first-year starter, 10th grader. And that game, I knew what it meant, and I got you on that one play. But you got us. You won the battle and the war that night. But Melendez called me that night, but he had already told me the story. But he kind of went into detail. He said, "Vic, I don't think you know. Tim knows this. The 81 jersey, because Kozlowski, a lot like Coach Mike Smith, is very particular when he assigns numbers. There's a tradition to it. There's some historical perspective, some insight. It's strategic in what he does. So 81, just for people watching this interview, this video, what did 81 mean during the Kozlowski era when you wore that number at linebacker?
Well, how Kaz came to me with the number was it was solely about, he was like, you're gonna be the next Melendez. You're gonna be the next Lenny Byrd. And he told me that there were other players before him that wore the number, and they were the leaders. It was a defensive number. It wasn't a wide receiver number for Bethel. It was a defensive number. But he, I guess he saw a similarity in me, other than just us being light skinned.
I was gonna say that.
You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say that.
Like, you look like Lenny. Give him number 81. No, but I mean, I think Andre Hargrove, he was the only other sophomore that was on varsity.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but he started off on varsity. But when he pulled me up, it was like he wanted me to be like the leader. He told me he wanted me to. You need to learn how to be a leader, and you're gonna play middle linebacker, and I'm gonna bring you up, and I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna show you what the same thing I did for Lenny. So, and I knew. I mean, like I said, I knew about Lenny, but at that point, when somebody's telling you, okay, you need to take on the legacy of somebody else that was before you, that's when you start to like, okay, well, let me see the pictures, because Kaj used to always keep pictures, articles and things. So, and I would see like what he actually did. Watch a couple of tapes that he played. That was my junior year, so he was already so I had somebody to measure up against. You know what I'm saying? And even though me and Todd grew up in the same neighborhood, it was really about trying to be like Melendez. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's always good for I actually took that into college, and I can explain that. But having somebody to measure up to try to walk in their footsteps and even surpass, I think that was a pretty good thing for me.
So for you, when college gave you that number, when you got pulled up, did you go from JV to starter, or did you still have to?
Ah, man, and that's the thing, man. It never brought me up, man. So I played. I didn't start. I started. I think I might have started 2 games, but like I was almost like a nickelback linebacker or something. Like he would bring me in for special situations and special plays and things like that. And I was like, man, I could have played. Could play tomorrow morning on the JV game, but whatever. It is what it is, and that happened. And then so I wish I would have played the rest of the year because Bubba Chuck was our quarterback. He was an 8th grader, and we had a squad. I don't know. We might have won district that year.
You're talking about on JV, right?
JV.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We had a squad. So, but yeah, I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to.
So the following year is your junior year, right?
Yeah.
And is that when everything comes together?
Nah, man, that's when everything came apart. Shit, man. I mean, I was ready. I mean, it was my defensive team at that point. Well, actually, I'll say this: it was Paul London's team. Paul was like our leader. He was on both sides of the ball. Paul was our leader. Paul had been there for a long time and balling. He was a monster.
Let me just add to that. I was in 9th grade that year when your junior year, and I remember we beat you guys pretty soundly. But I remember that season. I remember his career. Paul London, what'd you say? Yeah, it was 54-6.
Paul didn't play that game. Paul didn't play that game. Paul didn't play that game.
I know. I remember. But Paul was one of those guys, when you look back, he had a great career. He was always consistent. He was very good. He was dynamic. But I think because he had that personality of just doing, he wasn't chirping. He might have talked to you if you talked to him, but I don't think he ever got the credit he deserved.
Never got the credit he deserved. Even at UVA.
I was getting ready to say that. At UVA.
Even at UVA. I'm going to tell you, man, I used to go see him at UVA. And him and his boys, they used to take me in and take whoever I would roll down there with, they take me in, and everyone had the same opinion about it. Paul could play any position, which sometimes could be a failure because he never had a chance to be great at one position. Mm-hmm. At UVA, he played like 4 or 5 positions. I don't know. It was crazy, but he still was good. He made a name for himself. He made he's got a legacy there. People know who he is, not just because of his brother. But Paul was like that. I mean, he was like that in baseball. He was like that. He could have played basketball. He was just an all-around pure athlete. Mm-hmm.
So your junior year, Tim, you said it fell apart. Was it?
Yeah. Yeah. I played. I think I played 4 games maybe. I balled out my first 3 games, and then 4th game of the season we're playing against Kevin White and Ferguson. Kevin White was another monster. He was a beast. But I went to tackle somebody, man, and just landed on my wrist and broke my wrist. That joint's funny. To this day, they still joke me because I always say, man, I don't care how bad my injury is, I'm never laying out on the field. You ain't never gonna see me get carted off the field. My joint got to be like it's Joe Theismann, like that type of hit. I try to run to the sideline, and I'm running, and I'm like 5 yards away from getting to the sideline, and I just fall like a little bitch, and just like, pow, just rolling and screaming, arm broken. Oh man, it's all on camera, everything. I'm like, man, that was my season. That was my junior season. So I only played like 3, 4 games.
Yeah, what I remember about that game, and I was joking, but I do remember something very substantial, and it came to fruition the following year. So, my freshman year, I made varsity, but like you, looking back, I probably would have benefited more from just playing JV, but Coach Smith and Coach Mitchell felt it was important because I was a backup to both tackles. So I played in blowouts, but I remember I played in that Bethel game, and Victor Williams scored the last touchdown, and then we're going through the handshake line, and Bubba Chuck, for those that don't know, aka his real name, Allen Iverson, we're going through, good game, in the middle of Darling Stadium. And Chuck says to Fred Brown and Sean Hamlet and everyone that would listen, he said, enjoy that shit now, because we're not gonna lose to y'all next year. I promise you. And I was like, what? Of course, Reggie and all them and Mario, everybody's like, what up? Hey man, we gonna, because the Hampton Bethel rivalry was real, but at that time, Hampton was getting the best of it. There was a bit of a lull. Well, it was one-sided. And then your following year, I don't know what y'all did in that offseason, but I remember I talked to Barry Hargraves and Mike Simmons and Jonathan Dean and a lot of guys, Keevan, and they told us that year when I talked to them that summer of your senior year, that you guys just made a commitment, a dedication to just.
Well, you know what too? I think it had a lot to do with even though I played for Langley, a lot of the cats that my junior and senior year, man, they all played for Aberdeen.
Yes.
So they all came up playing together.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Simmons, like all them, they all played together as kids. So by the time we in high school, you already got a rhythm, or you at least know each other.
Chemistry.
Where your chemistry is just that much better. And to be honest, man, we were good my senior year, because our junior year, like, we actually had a good team. And we used to go at it in practice. And that was the first time where I think people started separating themselves and playing both ways. At Bethel, there was only a few people that went both ways. And the rest of everybody else was a specialized person in their position. And we used to go, it was like ones against ones in practice our junior year. And we used to go hard. And Paul used to play both sides. But I think that took us into, my senior year, that, I mean, there was no doubt we knew we were going to win the conference. We knew that from the beginning.
So y'all, hold on. So y'all knew y'all were going to win it, even with Phoebus having Tory Edge and all those guys.
We wasn't, even though that was one of the hardest games I played my senior year.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking about Phoebus. We knew they had the wishbone, but we weren't thinking about Phoebus. That was a hard game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started to get cocky, and sometimes you gotta be cocky. You have to be cocky in order to take yourself out of whatever situation that you were in. I mean, you just said it. It was one side. The Bethel Hampton rival was there, but it was one sided. Let's be real about the situation. And I mean, I think my sophomore year lost to y'all 54-14. Junior year lost to y'all 54-0. Like, that's one sided. And it was definitely a situation where, like, I'm gonna tell you how serious it was. My senior year, during tour days, me and Bubba Chuck almost died. At least I almost died. No, and I'm not joking. We our cornerback, Brian Bean, he had got his mom's car. He was supposed to just come to my house, but we like 15 deep. We rode to Virginia Beach to the Atlantic Beach Club. You remember that?
Yeah, man. I know.
Atlantic Beach Club, a teenage club on the strip in the beach. We went to the club, had a ball. We come back. It's 2:00 in the morning. His mom don't even know we way out Virginia Beach. We get a flat joint busted. No cell phones, no nothing. Some old guy come, pull over. He in a pickup truck. So he had to take Brian and the other dude that was riding with us. I'm laying in the back seat, Bubba Chuck in the passenger seat. He like, man, why don't you move up to the front seat just in case something happens. I move up to the front seat. We fall asleep. Like 20, 30 minutes later, man, this car runs into the back of us doing had to have been like 70, 80.
Oh my God.
Man, we got hit. We screaming, The car's rolling down the side of the shoulder up against the rail. There's sparks going everywhere. I jump out the car. I run right into the four-way traffic on, was it 260, 64, whatever?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And Bubba Chuck screaming, he can't get out because he pent up against the rail. I had to go run.
This is crazy.
Go pull him out. We crying in front of the car like two little girls. And the people that hit us, man, dude broke his arms, legs. I mean, it was bad. And the whole back seat was smushed up to the back of the front seat. So had I stayed right there, it would have been over. But I had a little whiplash. And I remember talking to Bubba Chuck. That was Saturday night. I remember talking to Bubba Chuck Sunday. We had practice Monday morning. And I was like, man, I think I need to go to the hospital. He was like, man, nah, I got to get this starting job. Derek Challenger was the official starting quarterback.
Yes, he was. I did know that.
And Bubba Chuck was like, nah, man, I ain't going to the hospital. I got to get this starting job. And I was like, all right, well, then I'm going to practice too. Like, it was that serious.
That's crazy.
Early August.
Yo, imagine if that had went left. Imagine how that would have, if that would have went left, and what would have happened not only to your career but to Chuck's. Like, I mean,
yeah, all them stories would have been gone.
Everything, you and him, the legacy, the championship, the conference top, everything changed.
I'm telling you how bad this accident was. The back of the car was smashed up to the back of the front seats. That's how bad it was. And we got away. But like, that's how serious we was about that season. Chuck was like, I got to get this starting position. Like, all right, well, I guess we're going to practice then.
So let me ask you this. Before we talk about that year for you, because that was a special year, which really set the tone for the state championship the following year. But before we talk about that your senior year and the following year, let's talk about, because we need to pay homage to your coaching staff. Just talk about what you learned, because Coach Smith, obviously, many people call him the GOAT, but I've said this, and I'm gonna say this till God takes my last breath. I love playing for Coach Smith, Coach Mann, and Coach Mitchell, and they were great, and they still are. God rest Coach Mitchell's soul. But I feel like the Peninsula District, the reason why that's the golden era as far as football is concerned, because you had Phoebus, you had Bill D, Kecoughtan had Coach Curt Newsome, and you also had Phoebus, you had Sexton and other assistant coaches. And you also had at Bethel, had guys who were father figures to me, the Incomenis,
yeah.
You know, Kozlowski. I mean, and again, you had Coach Reamon over at Ferguson. Warwick had their coaches. The Peninsula District was phenomenal with coaches. You're talking about You're talking about coaches that probably should have been coaching at the collegiate level and had offers to do that, but stayed.
But they chose not to.
Kozlowski gets the credit, but talk about what you learned from him and the other coaches on that staff that helped you become a player and a man.
I mean, he was no bullshit coach. So you couldn't cross him. He had power at that school. I mean, he had power. I'm sure that's how it was with Coach Smith.
Oh, without question, he still does.
You know, Kaz was a teacher there, but you know, Kaz had, you know, in the off season, Kaz used to lock down that gym, and he used to have his own little, you know, 5-on-5 all day. He played basketball all the time. He had everything on lock, and if he said whatever he said, it went. But he was always out for the best interests of people, and he had a lot of. I mean, those connections is endless, man. Like, I feel for cats that I played with in college, and now I hear stories about their coaches, and I'm like, dang, like, as much shit as we talk about our coaches, man, they had pull. They had pull all over the nation. You know what I'm saying? And they had been around for so long. Like, I read an article that Kaz had said back, it was like an article back in like 85. And he talked about the Hampton Bethel game in 1975 was the first televised game in Hampton Roads.
Yes.
He was like, he's going back that far. So he's been through, him and a lot of them coaches in the district, they had been there so long, they had seen the greats. You know what I'm saying? They seen the greats in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. They seen him come through. So of course, you always had I think when I got to him, he was at the age where it was no nonsense. It was like either do this or don't, you have a choice. If you don't want to do it, then fine, you're out. Hell, he kicked Bubba Chuck off the offense his freshman year. Because he wasn't coming to school on Mondays. He was missing class on Mondays, so he was like, well, he was our starting receiver. And he was a freshman. He kicked him off offense. He was like, you don't want to come to school on Mondays, and peace. You know what I'm saying? So that was another reason why Bubba Chuck, after that accident, he knew he knew he could not give up the opportunity to take that position because Kaz would give it to somebody else. He didn't care. He didn't care who you were. He didn't care who you were. And he'll leave you in the dust if you don't follow his lead.
Let me just add to that. I get chills hearing that story. Having a son and two daughters, having 3 kids, and someone who coaches my son and his teammates, and just being around the game now, even mentoring a lot of student athletes, I think that's what's missing. Because now these guys come to high school with credibility and clout because of social media and what some magazine or publication says, oh, this 8th grader, or everybody's telling these high school coaches, this dude right here, you better make sure he starts. Like there's an unrealistic expectation. If you and Iverson and all the greats, Todd Kelly's and the Melendez Byrd played now, y'all would have followers. There would be a trainer. You would have a street team behind you that would be saying, oh, when you get here, you better go to this school and he better play you. And hearing him hold Iverson accountable is legendary in its own right, because that pushed him indirectly and directly, along with you and several other players, to earn their spot.
It was very indirect for sure. Because I'm telling you, had he not pushed him Chuck's freshman year, Chuck wouldn't have had that mentality like, yo, I got to get this position. I got to win this position over. He didn't come in there like, I'm Bubba Chuck. I'm from Aberdeen. He was like, yo, I'm second in line trying to take this spot. And that's how it was. Regardless of he was going to get it or not, that's the thought he was going through. But I think that came from just how Kaz used to treat him. It was at one point, Kaz was like, man, I'm done with him. Done. That was his freshman. He had to change. He learned a lot. I mean, you ain't got no choice. If you want to play, you ain't got no choice. But going back to how kids act, you think about it, you named all these even Warwick's high school coach, all these head coaches, man, they coached for so long. Now I hear about these coaches throughout the district now, it's a high turnover.
Big time turnover, Tim. Big time.
Yeah, it's a high turnover, so you're not going to generate that path, to create your team, to create the legacy, to, this is how we do things at this school. Now, usually it's going to be like, at this point now, it's, this is how the head coach, does things, and this is how it is.
It's changed.
That was a Bethel thing. We handled things.
So speaking of that Bethel thing, now let's go back to your senior year, man, which you guys won the district that year. There's a build-up that season. There's a build-up because we were picked to win the district. You guys had a lot of returning starters. You guys were picked in the top half of the district to win it in the preseason media polls. We were ranked number 1 in the state, 9-0. Y'all,
it was like we was picked like 5th in the district, wasn't we?
Well, I said top half. I'm being respectful. Y'all were picked in the top
real
half.
Respectful.
I mean, it was I believe it was 10, maybe 11 schools: Lafayette, Gloucester,
10.
Hampton,
Yeah, I think it was 10.
Denby, Mitchville, 11. Yeah. So I mean, but we're number 1 in the state, and
Right.
we're over in Hampton, and the mindset is like, we start to realize like, okay, deep down we're like, maybe we're gonna run through y'all again, but all of a sudden, y'all are winning games, and there's a certain energy around your program. And you guys were winning just like we were. And then all of a sudden, it's that night that I will never forget. I posted a video, and It was we're 9-0, y'all 9-0. It feels like the entire state of Virginia is in Darling Stadium. It's Friday night. You guys got the all white with the highlight yellow, gold, and green. We come out in all black.
Right.
It was at least from what I remember, and you know, I keep a lot of these papers and articles, and I got the recordings. At least 10,000 people there, not counting the thousands of people around outside of the gate of Darling Stadium. There were people sitting on top of houses watching that game. I remember being very cold, and I remember being
it was cold. It was bad cold.
It was televised, and I remember being 10th grade, a first year starter, just thinking, man, this is big time football. This is we're both ranked, but this is big time football. I mean, but this is not my legacy spotlight. This is yours. You're a senior, and you're having a great season. What is going through your mind when the game?
Well, let me tell you a couple of things before that game. The first 4 games, I think, we went like we didn't get scored on.
Yep.
We didn't get scored on, and we got to that point. We had gotten so cocky. Really, it came down to our practices. Our practices were off the chain. Like, it was full-fledged, go hard. Like, it was ones against ones. Bubba Chuck played both ways. We had like maybe 4 players that played both ways, maybe 5. And Steve Ramsey was our running back. Steve Ramsey just talked, and he was cocky, and he was a man among boys, to be honest. He acted a lot older than how we acted. And he should just talk mad shit. And he was nice. And we should just go hard at it. But when we started playing teams and we started shutting people down, it was like, yo, we could shut everybody out. Like, we can go through the whole season, we could shut everybody out. That's how cocky, that's how good we thought we were, for sure. The first team that scored against us, and I saw Tony's interview, they scored against us the first game. And that was the first time we got scored on.
Tony Jordan, from the quarterback from Kecoughtan. Yeah, my guy.
Yeah, Tony Jordan. But I got in trouble for that too. I got in a lot of trouble. The week before that, we played Gloucester or Lafayette, and we murdered them. And they interviewed me after the game, and they asked me about, you know, the undefeated, not being scored on and everything. And I don't know what I said. I said something. Next morning, we go to the JV game, and Kai's sitting out in front of the locker room in a chair with the newspaper. Joe Manley, who's my best friend, he played defensive end for us, who was the player of the game at Hampton. Joe Manley was like, he got in the car when he picked me up. He's like, man, why you say that? I was like, say what? He's like, you ain't read the newspaper? I was like, nah. He's like, man, you done went in the newspaper and said that we gonna shut everybody out. Like, we gonna go through the whole district and no one's gonna score on us. Man, Kai's sitting up there. We get out the car. Kai's got the newspaper in his hand. He's shaking that joint. Goddamn Tim Johnson. Like, what did you say? What did you say? Man, he was so angry with me. And I was like, I don't even know, man. I'm just coming off of like 15 tackles and being hyped and everything. Like, I don't know. We was talking that thing, and Kecoughtan, they scored on us. They scored 14 on us, I think. But the year before, when we lost to Hampton, y'all had some students that we got our ass kicked, 54-0. We on the bus, we get to Bethel, and there's crabs all over our locker room area, entrance area. Somebody done took bushels, crabs, all in our front of the locker room. We had to crush, we had to step on the crabs. There was that many crabs. It was just bushels and bushels of crabs. And it was that pissed us off for that game, because we knew that when we went to that game my senior year, everybody remembered that night. We remember that night and how bad it smelled, like days after that. It smelled like shit for days. And everybody remembered that. And we were not walking out of there. We was pissed off. Actually, you know, after the game, we was pissed off that we got scored on.
What you talking about after y'all beat us in the district championship?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should have scored a touchdown. I want to talk about that play in a second that was anyway. Hold on, before I get to that play, y'all. So I think Coach Smith and Kozlowski and both staffs had different motivational tactics because if you talk to your brother Lloyd Tucker, who played with me at Hampton High, allegedly y'all came over and trashed our field and put pumpkins on the field and messed with our offensive line shoots and
Yeah, they did that. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Look,
that's how it started.
I don't think anybody. I know the people I know in Hampton. If they get some crabs, they're gonna eat them. They're not gonna take them over to Bethel. But who knows? I don't know. But it worked. Whoever did it, it worked for y'all. It did.
Yeah. We supposedly did something to y'all, equipment, outside joint, a whole bunch of stuff. But there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than having a rival, and your rival is the Crabbers, and you got crabs out in front of your locker room, bro. I'm telling you, after you just got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
So, hey Tim. So that night, man, you were all over the field. One of the and Hampton and Bethel, Melendez, Byrd, they beat Eric Hunter that one year, and Eric Hunter then went on one state. There was the 5-3 game where Hampton won by a field goal. So I don't say this statement lightly at all, but when I go back and watch tape, because I go back and watch a lot of these games, because I just like just this nostalgia and reflecting on and even learning about some plays I didn't know. But I really feel like that 92, that 90, whatever year it was, your senior year, the 9-0 matchup goes down as one of the best Bethel Hampton games because of the talent on both sides, what it meant for the district and even the region. Because back then you could go 8-2 and miss the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
But you were all over that field that night. Like I went out that video I posted. Like I remember you. I don't know. At one point, I thought you should have been drug tested. You were on coke. You were screaming. You were hitting Shelly Ellison in the backfield. You were chirping, talking to our sideline. You just were all over the field. You were outside on my side at one time, and I looked up. You were at the mic position in the middle. Then they on the other side, coming off the edge on Tucker's side.
Kaz used me. He used me well.
Mm-hmm.
He had me all over the place, and a lot. I get blamed for I get called out in high school, and even when I went to college, cats would be like, "Oh man, all he did was blitz." I'm gonna be honest, man. I watched a lot of film. In high school and college, especially college, but high school, I learned how to watch film, and it got to a point where I knew what was going to happen just simply from watching film.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to what the coaches are telling you and you watch enough film, you're gonna beat the ball. And that's what you got to do at linebacker, because you already at every defensive player is at a disadvantage. You're already a snap behind. You're a step behind, sometimes 3 steps behind the offense, because the offense predicates everything that happens in a play. But if you know the formations, you know what's going on. I know the ball's coming right here. No, I'm not blitzing. I'm coming through that hole because I know you coming through the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And that game, man, I definitely, there was a few games I had that year where I felt like I was on fire. Literally knew everything that was about to happen. I know you're coming here. I know you're assigned to block me. I know you're coming, and I'm gonna take an advantage of that. I'm gonna dip in. I'm gonna dip out. I'm gonna take an edge to where I can disrupt everything. And that's all I wanted to do. I knew if I can disrupt something, then everyone else behind me will make the tackle. If I can't make the tackle, I knew that everybody was so hyped and so ready to go that game that somebody was gonna make the play. Somebody was gonna do something. And I was so geeked for that game. There was nothing that you were gonna do to stop me at all.
You played that way. You played like a man that with his hair on fire. And interesting, you said the way you played and how you were attacking everything that moved. There's several plays in any football game, especially a game of that magnitude on any level, where you can point to. It could be a holding call, a trick play that results in a touchdown, a coaching adjustment at the halftime. I remember several. I remember Chuck tackling Shelly Ellison on 4th and 4 or 4th and 2. He came out of nowhere, and Shelly was a horse.
Hey,
Shelly
man, I'm telling you, Bubba Chuck could hit.
Yeah.
Bubba Chuck got some highlights.
Well, he does. And, that was the difference between a guy like him and maybe Dion, who said they don't pay me to tackle, because Chuck was 6 feet, but he came up. But Shelly, that play, he got us on 4th and 4. We were driving. We had momentum. There was also obviously the fake option pass where Chuck came in and dropped back and hit Kelly Rogers against Walter Ford, the other, in the end zone that put y'all up 9-3 to subsequently win the game. There was also different times in which we got in the red zone, not so much on the goal line, and you guys would, stand your ground and force us to punt. The play of the game for me, and Tyrone Tynes says the same thing, and other people, Myron Newsome, Fred Brown. There are a lot of us when we go back, and it's.
By the way, man, Myron Newsome, man, I love Myron Newsome, bro.
Oh, one of the best ever.
And I love Myron Newsome. You know what? Myron Newsome was, man. You take a dude that's at that height. I ain't gonna say he was small because he wasn't small.
No.
But he had balled for a long time in his high school career.
Oh, Myron one of the best to ever do it.
Right, and then went to Tech and did the same thing.
Well, we were together at Hampton and Tech, so I know. I saw it in practice. But let me bring this point up, because this is your legacy spotlight. We drove all the way down. We got momentum. I remember, because I'm blocking Barry Hargraves, and we driving, and we get down to the goal line. I'm talking about, if I do like this, we're in the end zone.
Right.
And it's 3rd and goal. And Tyrone Tynes is the left guard. I'm the left tackle. And I think Coach Smith called 43 lead. And I know, I mean, nothing against Barry, because he was a great player, but I had him. I pushed him outside, and all I hear on 3rd and goal is y'all side erupt. And I look and I see you celebrating, throwing your arms up, and all y'all celebrating. I'm like, what? So we go back and watch the tape. And your good friend, someone you're very close to, Lloyd Tucker, did not block the B gap. You blitzed the gap, and you get Brian Marlowe in the backfield, forcing us to punt, which, not that that's not blaming Tucker, because, Tucker was a great player.
No, it was Tuck's fault. It was, you can say it's okay. I told him I was going to call him out when I would do this. It was his fault.
Tuck missed the block. And that's what I'm saying, because there were so many plays. There was also a play, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if it was Brian Bean. He got an interception and was running it back. He got hit and fumbled, and I recovered it.
Oh, that was you that recovered?
That was me. I recovered it too. He got smacked, and I got the ball. That's how we got back in and so that same drive.
That's right.
We go and we on the goal line. And so when you make that play, man, like, I know you didn't know that was basically going to, win the game, because there were other plays. That one play didn't, but when you win the game 9-3, that's a remarkable play. Did after the game, when y'all watched tape, or did it hit you then later that week, or y'all were just on to the playoffs?
It hit me as soon as I made that play.
Really?
There was it's not on the Channel 5 news recording, but it was like our game tape.
Mm-hmm.
That play was like on the 3-yard line. When I made that play, one of the things you can't do against a good linebacker, you can't run away from a good linebacker. Usually, like, track it down. Sometimes smaller linebackers, if you run at them, you can take advantage of them, right? But y'all ran away, and that's all I need. I just need a little bit of room, a little bit of gap, and I can chase it down. But when I made that play, I ran all the way to y'all sideline. I went right to y'all sideline and was just like in y'all. I was so hyped. I was so geeked. Like, I knew that play, that was it. That was because y'all had to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
That was it. I knew that was going to break y'all, because y'all had momentum, but that I knew it was going to break y'all back. But yeah. And you should have felt great, because
in all the games I played, I played against Miami on national TV against, some of the, Eric, Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. I played against some great people, some big time games. Played against Donovan McNabb and Syracuse.
And you played against Ed?
Yeah, but what's amazing, even though that was collegiate Division I big time football, that game against y'all for the district title in front of 10,000 fans, and it was televised, and with all y'all on the field, on both sides, it's still one of the highlights of my life.
Oh, no doubt. Me too.
I wish we'd have won it. Obviously, man.
And I played in front of packed house at Florida State when they were the national championships. I played in front of packed house at Clemson. I played in front of 80,000 people at North Carolina A&T HBCU classics. Like, I played in some big, huge games. And that Hampton Bethel game, I'm gonna tell you, bro, that one still doesn't, because it was personal.
It was, and that's the great thing about it, because on both sides, it was a lot of friends and guys that know each other. Plus,
Right.
It was personal because Kozlowski and Coach Smith were two of the best coaches in the state.
Exactly.
Probably, along with Curt Newsome, the two top coaches in the state. And maybe the guy over that was at Norcom, who y'all played the following week. Yeah, but ultimately,
man, no, don't remind me about that one.
But before we get into your collegiate career, ultimately, even though y'all lost to Norcom and we ended up losing to First Colonial that year in the Eastern Regional Championship, led by Brandon Noble.
We both, and Brandon was I played with Brandon in the All-Star game.
Yeah, Brandon Noble, that's who we lost to, man. 24-10. But that
was he like that? Was he like that?
Yes. Ask Tucker. Ask Lloyd Tucker. Ask Lloyd Tucker. Thank God he was on Tuck that night and not me, because I was in 10th grade.
He was our state player of the year.
Yes, but listen. I don't.
He's a defensive lineman, offensive lineman. He was state player of the year.
But he was an animal. Trust me.
Animal.
I blocked him one time on a field goal or extra point, and he took me. He almost took me to 264. And he didn't even do anything special. He just took me for a ride. And then I looked, and I was just like, because I was a sophomore. He just looked at me and was like, he hit me with the Jordan. But
he was a cool dude. I got to kick it with him for a little bit.
Yeah. But one point I want to make to give you credit and the seniors on that team, and this is kind of the gift and the curse of how it works with timing. You guys ultimately, when you humbled us that night in a great hard-fought battle against two of the top teams in the region, you gave momentum and confidence. Chuck gets the credit because he's a once-in-a-lifetime player. He was an iconic figure. But with all due respect, that game, that win prepared Mike Jackson and Dean and everybody on that team to make a run the following year. Because I really feel like, and this is just me talking, I feel like if that game is not won by y'all, we do get that touchdown. You don't get in tuck blocks down and Malo scored. I think we get momentum and we probably win that game. Maybe we do, but I'm just saying, say we win it, who knows what happens the following year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the following year was the same thing. We were 9-0, number one in the state. Bethel was 7-2, had a loss to Denby and Phoebus, and had to beat Hampton to make the playoffs the year they won state. People don't realize that. Mm-hmm. We were ranked in the nation by USA Today.
I remember.
And Chuck beat us along with Mike Jackson and Kelly Rogers and all those guys. They beat us 30-10.
But man, even as a sophomore, he was our starting quarterback. If anyone that grew up with him, he was the immature dude that all he wanted to do was joke. That's all he wanted to do, just jokes all day, every day. But when it came to playing them games, I'm gonna tell you, there have been many of times. There's been several times where I might have been more tired than I should have been, and I plays in the huddle, and I can remember him coming up to me face to face and looking me eye to eye, not saying nothing, just looking at me like he want to say like, "What you tired for?" Like, why tired? Like, we in the game. He could do some things that I saw that his leadership skills were actually, it was contagious. Like he was a contagious athlete. That's what I laugh at that whole practice thing, that because it made him comical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Practice, we talking about practice. And I laugh at that because from football to basketball, because I played basketball with him for 2 years. He was one of the hardest working players that I've ever played with in practice. You were never going to beat him in drills.
Mm-hmm.
Never going to outdo him in any play, 7-on-7, whatever drills we're doing, he's going to win everything. So I laugh at that whole practice thing because that's how hard we used to practice. We used to practice real hard. And you know what I'm saying? So like his leadership, I can see why. I don't think he did ball out his junior year, but he transformed them guys. Those dudes that I played with those guys my senior year that ended up winning the state championship after I left. They were a whole different team. They were a whole different team.
I talked, you're 100% right. I talked to Chuck one time when he was on house arrest, when he was staying on Victoria Boulevard. And the only reason I was over there, not to get my man in trouble, but this was years ago, my man Milo was across the street. He was talking to this girl named Sonia, his girlfriend. So me and AP, my cousin Adrian Parker, AP, we went across the street and we chopped it up with Chuck. He came in the door because he was on house arrest. He had this when he was released and he was doing the GED program, getting ready to
get right.
Georgetown. And I said, Chuck, man, did you really think y'all were gonna be this, man? Our junior year? And he was, with that raspy voice, he was like, Big Vic, man. Yo, for real, I told them dudes in the pregame in the locker room when, he basically said, I'm paraphrasing, I made them believe. He said, because y'all still had that Hampton mystique. He told me this, I'll never forget it. And he said he had to set the tone. And there was a play, and guys remember this. I know Myron Newsome remembers this. We're warming up and we get ready to get in the middle of the field and get the Crab of Pride break. And all of a sudden I look out of my corner of my eye and here comes number 10, bow-legged with the green tights, the spat on his cleats. And he walks up and he starts talking. And all of a sudden Barry Hargraves and Mike Sen, everybody's clapping. So we like, what? Me and Lloyd Tucker, I'm ready to fight. Tucker's ready to fight. And Chuck points to John Logan, our quarterback. He says, you wear number 10, I wear number 10. We're going to see who's worthy of that number at the end of this game. And John Loganman is not a Virginia guy. He moved to Virginia from Texas or something like that. He came in high school. He had played, maybe that year was his first year. It was his junior year. And then he played his senior year. And John Loganman was like, yeah, okay, yeah. And I knew it at that moment because me and Tucker and Tynes and a lot of us were worked up. We were ready to kill somebody. Looking back, I don't want to say he got in our head, but we were no longer focused on playing our game. We were just trying to kill him. And the only person on our team that could get a clean hit on him was Myron Newsome. But to your point,
Myron's fast enough to do that.
Yeah, but to your point, my dude, he inspired them. They played at a level that game. That was probably their best game because we watched them lose to Phoebus. I watched them lose to Denby. You watch tape, and I felt like there was nobody that was going to beat us that year because at that year we put Myron Newsome at running back. And we had him and Shelley. You know how big those guys are. And we had Walter Ford, So
he was a big dude, yo.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. When we played against y'all, I was like, damn, man, Shelley's a big dude.
Yeah.
So the programs are always pumped up. They had him at 6'2", 6'3", 220.
Yeah.
And I knew how much I really weighed. They had me at like 210. I'm like, man, I'm 185.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah. But look, Tim, I want to talk to you real quick, man. This has been fun, but I want to ask you about your college time. Like, you had a great run at Bethel. By now, you're seeing. Yeah, I know you're getting interest from schools. You're talking to people. How did Wake Forest get in the picture? How did you end up choosing Wake Forest?
And I was slotted to go to Maryland. So at the time my senior year, my brothers and sisters, I had a sister that graduated from high school here in Maryland, and she graduated from Douglas High School, and all my family had already moved up to Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
It was just me and my mom in Hampton. So I was just all about Maryland. I was going to Maryland. I went to the Maryland, the Joe Kreeback football camp. It was me, Joe Manley, and you remember James Elliott that played running back for Denby?
Yeah. He was a monster.
He was a monster. His son's a monster at Indiana University. Played nose guard. He'd start nose.
I didn't know that was his son.
He's a beast too.
Wow.
Yeah, sure. But we went to the camp, and it was pretty much a done deal. I was going to Maryland. My whole senior year. Matter of fact, we went to the Maryland's first football game against UVA, and Aaron Mundy was playing. I'll never forget talking to Aaron before the game, and Terry Kirby and Chris Slade before the game. But we had went to the game, first game of the season, and then I pretty much was like, I'm going to Maryland. But then Joe Kreeback got fired, so I had a visit scheduled for University of Maryland, but they didn't have a coaching staff. So when I did the visit, it was declared as like an unofficial visit, and they were going to try to wait for the coaches to come in, whatever. But I went to Wake. Well, I was supposed to go to South Carolina. I went to James Madison. I went to Hampton University. I ended up not going to South Carolina because I didn't return a phone call. Like all of my recruitment, like literally, I didn't have nobody doing anything for me. I had mad coaches. You remember how it was when you were being recruited?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches calling me every night, all night long. Coaches calling. But it was just me and my mom. And my mom, she didn't know nothing about that. And I didn't have no father figure in the house. So I pretty much was just handling everything by myself as a 17-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm calling University of Pittsburgh was like my number one. They were hard on me, but they would call me and they would come to my house and my mom would cook for them. But like our conversations, my mom wouldn't be in the room with us. It would just be me and like the head coach and the coordinator or whatever. And it would be like a discussion between men and a 17-year-old boy. And I ended up not visiting Pitt or South Carolina simply because I didn't call back. When I went to Wake, Kevin Giles and Arna Bontemps, who played at Phoebus.
Yep.
And them dudes was nasty for Phoebus. Phoebus had a squad. Phoebus had a real squad. That was with my junior year. They had a squad. And
they beat us that year.
Man, Phoebus was nice.
They were very good.
It was nice.
They had grown men, man.
They had grown. I remember being on the sideline. Remember, I told you I was hurt my junior year. When they played us, I remember them tackling somebody on the sideline. I'm in regular clothes, and them dudes was talking so much shit. I was like, man, these some grown men. They got beards. Like, this is some grown men. And then they had that nostalgia of like the Raiders and all that, the gangs and all that. I'm like, this is going down out in Phoebus. But when I went to Wake, man, a lot of times, man, like you could think you're gonna go to one school and want to go somewhere else. I went to Wake because I was like, look, when I took my visit, because it was like the other ACC school was UVA, but UVA wanted me to play safety, and I knew I wasn't a safety. I knew that from the giddy up. So they didn't go but so hard at me. But Wake went hard at me. And when I got to my visit, Kevin Giles and Arna Bontemps was they took me in.
The host.
They was my host. And sometimes all it takes is that one weekend. It was just one of those weekends. I'll say that. one of those weekends I was like, Wake Forest at that time, you had a bunch of dudes from North Carolina that was nice. You had a gang of cats from Virginia. You had a gang of cats from Florida. And that chemistry that was there between them dudes, the dudes that I met at that time, I was like, oh, I'm coming here. Like, there's no doubt I'm coming here. These Florida dudes, I don't know these dudes. I don't know what they about, but I like them. Like, I like them. These North Carolina dudes, they got that country draw, but I like them. And I was like, man, I'm coming here. Like, I don't even care if they suck. Like, because they made me feel good. But, you know, really, Kevin Giles and Out of Bontemps, they was the ones that, like, sold me. Like, man, just come and play, man. We can turn this thing around. And so that was the reason why I ended up going.
But you get there, you play a few years, but then next thing I know, you get there, you're there for a short period of time, and then next thing I know, I hear you at A&T, and then I meet some of my friends. My shout out to my homie Clint Williams, and he's talking about, yo, Tim Johnson was a beast. I'm like, oh. Again, A&T. So how did you go? Because, I mean, again, that's not a bad thing. A lot of guys transfer, right, especially now. Good Lord, 2020.
No, right. So when I did it, it wasn't as normal as it is now.
Yeah.
But for that team, there were several people that transferred from my freshman class. There was 22 of us, but there were several people that transferred my freshman class because of the situation. I played for the legendary Bill Dooley.
Yes.
Vince Dooley was his brother that was at Georgia and was the athletic director at Georgia. So, and they got close ties to Virginia Tech's head coach.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because he took over after Bill Dooley left.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Dooley was that coach, man. He was one of that coach. He was that coach. Another reason why I went away was because cats told me, it was like, look, he'll take care of you. Like he's a coach. He's a college football coach. He'll take care of you. But when I got there freshman year, he's like, oh yeah, I'm retiring. Like, hold on, that's our first meeting. Like, he had a heart attack in the off season. He had some young cheerleader wife from Wake Forest, and she was like, "Nah, you gotta retire." So he ended up retiring. Jim Caldwell came in.
Yep.
First black head coach in ACC history.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Caldwell came, and I was just too immature. I couldn't deal with Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell wanted military style, Penn State. Everybody's socks got to be the same height. Everybody's shirt got to be tucked in. You can't wear no wristbands. You can't wear no spat. You can't wear no it was cuss jar. It's like, man, this shit sucks. This sucks. And we're losing. Like, we just came off a bowl win my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Bowl game, and we had a great time. We went 8-4.
Yeah.
Played against my freshman year, I played against Terry Kirby, Natron Means, Charlie Ward, Kez McCorvey. I played against some monsters who ended up balling in the league. But I don't know, things just changed, and it wasn't. We weren't trying to win anymore. And from what I understand, it was, Wake Forest is a school, they have to keep their graduation rate at
it's big on academics.
Yeah, it's big on academics. So really, winning is not top priority. So,
so you chose A&T, right? So I mean, A&T, did you have family?
I didn't choose A&T.
What happened?
Nah, I ain't choose A&T, man. Shoot. I had an opportunity to go to Oklahoma State. So the coach that recruited me to Wake Forest, he left to go to Oklahoma State. I would have went to Oklahoma State and played with James Elliott that played at Denby, because he ended up going to Garden City Community College, and then ended up at Oklahoma State. But I was like, man, I'm not going that far. I don't know nothing about that. My family can't come see me. So I was like, man, I'm going to Howard. Bubba Chuck had just, he was going to Georgetown. So I was like, okay, well, Bubba Chuck going to Georgetown. I'm going to Howard. All my family was in DC by then. We had all left Hampton. So everybody was in DC. I was like, man, I'm going to Howard. So I go to Howard. I'm like, look, I'm transferring. Jim Caldwell helped me. He set it up. I went to Howard, went to the film session. They looked at my tape. They was like, oh yeah, we're gonna give, you gonna get a scholarship. So the Friday classes start on Monday. It's January, second semester. It's Friday. I'm packing my bags, putting my stuff in my car. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. The defensive coordinator calls me and he's like, hey man, we decided to go another route. There's a defensive lineman out of University of Maryland that wants to transfer, and we need a defensive lineman more than we need a linebacker. So we're gonna give him the scholarship. I was like, are you fucking serious? Really? Like it's Friday, 2 days. I'm supposed to go and get my classes that Friday. That's why I was leaving so early. I was supposed to go to the wherever to go get my classes. So on Monday, I start class at Howard University. And I had to call Jim Caldwell. He's like, yo, man, I ain't got nowhere to go. So he was like, look, I'll call Coach Hayes at A&T, see what he got. If not, you can come back here. And then you can transfer after the second semester. I was like, me and him had been butting heads for months because I was immature and I was an idiot. And but he gave me that opportunity. I'm like, all right, well, damn, thanks.
That's crazy.
Right. So that, like 2 hours later, Coach Bill Hayes, legendary Bill Hayes, a lot of people might not know about him, HBCU coach. He just got inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame. He got a huge award like a few months ago, but man, Coach Hayes got this crazy voice, and he was like, hey man, Coach Caldwell just called me, man. You need to bring your ass down here, man. Can you get down here today? Bring your ass down here, man. And I got in that car, and I was in Greensboro that Friday, got my classes registered, and I was a North Carolina A&T student that Friday afternoon.
That's crazy. I never knew the story behind it. I'm glad you're sharing.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people that's going to see this don't know the story behind it.
Yeah, that's crazy. It gets even crazier as the year goes on, and we go to play Howard.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got to go and play Howard. And that was look, we went to go play Howard at Howard. I had a vendetta on my look. It was like literally, and I'm not bullshitting you just because we doing this show. It was literally like them damn crabs on the locker room floor. I am not letting this shit happen. I'm about to get these motherfuckers. I'm about to get them. And I hit them off for 23 tackles and 8 tackles for loss.
23?
23. Got him. My man, Jose White, who played for the Vikings, he was a defensive player of the year that year. We went to the All-MEAC banquet that year, and he was like, man, coach told me he messed up. He was like, man, I think I might have messed up. We should have got this dude, but sort of messed him up, and now he playing for A&T. This is before we played him. Like, man, I'm about to get these dudes. My whole family was at the game and everything, because we was in DC then. Oh man, I lit their ass up. 23 tackles, but 8 tackles for loss. That means more than 23 tackles. Anytime.
No doubt.
For sure.
So, how long were you at A&T? So you finished your career there?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. So it all worked out for you.
No. It did, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. A&T was the greatest experience I could have ever had. And everything that could have happened, it happened for a reason. And man, I got like so many memories, so many friends, so many but the experience of North Carolina A&T itself, like, wish people could. I wish a lot of these Black players who go to the Virginia Techs and the Wake Forests, they could experience going to an HBCU. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm like, man, I'm gonna make sure I've got my Aggie stuff so people can see this is like, there's players now that are like checking out and going to these HBCUs. Not a lot of them, but you know, it's an experience, man. It's an experience that you could never like forget.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. Obviously, I went to Virginia Tech, but you got to remember where we grew up at. You have the Battle of the Bay, Hampton, and Norfolk State. My mom,
exactly. We knew.
But my mom is a graduate of Hampton, and my dad is Norfolk State. So for me, I literally grew up on both campuses, and believe it or not, even though I was rated high and had a bunch of offers, in my top 5, top 10 were 2 HBCUs. But similar.
That's what's up.
It's similar, and yeah, people were surprised because Florida was on me hard. So was UVA at the time, and a few other schools. But similar to what happened with you and Howard, Howard did me like that. Howard called me my senior year, and I had Howard in my my top 10 because they had a quarterback named Skywalker.
Yeah, man, I know.
Yeah.
Man, I smoked cigars with him.
I was a fan of his. I remember having a magazine because, you know, you get recruited, they send you the media guides, and I would watch Howard games on I don't think it was Comcast cable, but whatever it was. And I would watch him, and all of a sudden Howard called me one night, and my dad was livid, my mom and dad, because they said that they, after reviewing my academics, they could only offer me a partial. And then my dad called UVA, my mom called some other schools. Turns out Howard was just trying to save money, trying to shortchange me, so they fell out my top 10. So, you know, it was disappointing, but I will say this: we need more gentlemen like you and women. Sean DeBailey's been on this podcast, and other people to talk about the legacies and the good things HBCUs offer. Because I have plenty of friends that played sports, and then some that didn't, that had great times. And I know what you're talking about, that pride amongst our race and our culture that needs to be told and shared. I think the one thing the HBCUs are still falling short on, and I think Deion Sanders is doing a great job of fixing this, is presenting that in the media. Because some of these schools are not being showcased like they should, as far as like A&T and other schools. Like, we know about their bands and we know about the campus life, the fraternities and sororities, but we need to know about, yo, if you go there, you can get drafted, you get a great education, you're going to play against other talent. It's not just about stomp the yard. And I think that's what needs to be told. Does that make sense?
Here's the difficult thing in the whole discussion of that. Because, you know, A&T went, you know, they left the MEAC. So they left college.
Yep.
They didn't leave Black college. They left a Black conference, HBCU conference. So there was a whole lot of people upset about that situation. I'm all for it. I'm all for it because I'm like, man, shit. I'm trying to, like, how beautiful would it be for HBCU to win an actual real national championship, right? The chance of that happening is too slim, right? But you got to take steps towards it. So before the championship happens, I'm trying to explain to people what the difference is. When I was at Wake Forest, I had access to so many counselors, so many tutors. I had, like, if I had anthropology, right? One of my favorite classes. I had anthropology. I didn't know shit about anthropology, but I had access to a tutor that taught anthropology. I had access to a tutor that had calculus, right? At A&T, I did not have that. And that's what A&T was able to do with this move from the MEAC to this new conference. They're reallocating money to where it goes to a place where your student athlete now has access to not just one person checking to see if 100+ people are doing the work and they're getting to school and they're getting to their class and getting the grades they're supposed to get. Like, no, they're actually getting access to tutors, like money allocated to them progressing and being great students, on top of the money being allocated to a weight program or a training program, right? But most importantly, man, it's like, shit, when it comes down to it, ain't none of y'all going to the pros. Like, get your ass in a daggone tutor and get through calculus and all the other classes you gotta get through. That's what you're there for. And I think that's what the focus needs to be on. It shouldn't be on athletics. I dig what Dion is doing. I think it's like an investment that like is gaining too much traction. I think they're gaining a lot of traction, but you're gonna have to handle that. Like this.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's gonna be real fast for them. Like they got top players leaving Florida, University of Florida, to come play for them. Like, okay, how y'all gonna handle that load? That's pretty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not like they're used to winning. They're not a winning program. A&T's a winning program. We won 3 of the last 4 national championships.
I know that. I know. I posted one of that. Yeah, I got a lot of friends that are Aggies. I know about it. Yeah.
Right, but I think A&T. I think these HBCUs, they got to make their moves. But you know what? Too, at the same time, too, you gotta attract white players. Man, you can't have an all-black team. I hate to say it. There's some white boys out there that are ballers, and there's some white guys out there that will come to the team if you give them an opportunity. They don't want. They may not want to go to Western Carolina, or Carolina, or something like that. They may want to come to A&T, Hampton. But you got to recruit them.
Yeah.
You got to give them an opportunity to be like, okay, look, you're gonna graduate with high honors from a prestigious school, because these schools they're prestigious schools.
Yeah. So let's talk. So Tim, man, this has been great. Reflecting the Bethel Hampton game, man, and hearing about how you came about and all the greats that came from you, before you, and just playing for legendary coaches. But we're at the point of the show where we reflect, and I want you to offer your final thoughts. I want you to talk about, you're a father, you're a family man, I want you to talk about what the game of football, but more importantly, your journey so far in life has taught you. Like, just what would you tell a group of players that are at Bethel right now, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, some young Tim Johnson, some young Manleys, or Lloyd Tuckers at Hampton, or Dwight Vicks? What has life taught you so far? What perspective do you have now, being a father, being in the position you are? You got that beautiful man cave. You're doing well.
I had this man cave. I got 3 daughters.
So having 3 beautiful daughters, being a former standout athlete that played at a high level, you were very successful, but you went through your own challenges, and you talk about maturity and mistakes and messing up in middle school, and dealing with Caldwell at Wake Forest, and you've been through, which I think gives you great insight and perspective. With that being said, your final thoughts for your legacy spotlight. What has life taught you so far, and what, not just the game of football, but just what perspective do you have, and what feedback do you want to give people watching this show, as well as young people that are aspiring to be another Tim Johnson or better?
I would actually say, man, look, my whole entire life, I had to do literally everything. I know I had help. I had help in a way that I probably don't recognize, especially my family. I'm definitely not gonna take anything away from my family. I had brothers and sisters, my mom, and even my pops. Like they were there. You know what I'm saying? My friends were there for me, for sure. Like I really leaned on my friends a lot, and my friends' parents. I seen I seen how things are supposed to be done a certain way through the eyes of my friends and watching their parents and things like that. But I never had a mentor ever in my entire life. I never had a mentor, right? So I would say for these kids, one of the two biggest things is like being goal oriented and having a mentor. And I never had a mentor because there wasn't anyone that actually said, hey, look, I had the Melendez, but that was a short period of time. He left, right? I had Kevin Giles, who took me for a little bit of time, but I left and went to A&T. I had a homeboy named Cassius that took me in when I transferred to A&T, but he left. He was a senior. So I never really had, even in my work field, what I do for a living, I never had anyone that was like a mentor, right? So, but at the same time, I never asked for a mentor. I begged for a mentor without being vocal. I actually wanted Jim Caldwell to, like, I was like, man, why does he treat me like that? You know, he should be like trying to take care of me. No, Jim Caldwell was there to win games, not take care of you as some little boy, right? Same with when I was at A&T with Coach Hayes. So if you want to be mentored, you got to find a mentor. Find a mentor and figure out what it is that you're trying to learn from that person. And then the whole point of just like, what's your goal? Because I didn't have any goals, Vic. No goals. I did not go to college to get a college degree. I went to college because it was the next step in life. And I was good enough to play football. And I was good enough in math to major in engineering. You know what I'm saying? Right. So if I wasn't good enough in engineering, I don't know what I would have done. And good enough in math, I don't know what I would have done. But, you know, I skated easy, right? So I've been given a whole lot of cards. And so if you don't have them cards that's given out, then you got to have a goal. That I did learn the hard way. You know, have a goal. This is what I'm trying to do. Like my goals are very, very like hard outreach. Like it doesn't make sense. But even if I get halfway there, I'm good.
No doubt.
So that's what I would say, man. Find a mentor, have some goals.
That's awesome, man. Great stuff to live by, and I agree with you 100%, man. I've been blessed to have a great mentor in my father and other guys like Melendez. Melendez is my mentor. He's pretty much. I met him at Virginia Tech, and he's pretty much. He kind of got this whole thing going with everything I've done now. He prepared me. It's amazing how God works. He actually prepared me and spoke life into everything I'm doing now with Vicktory Life and my Vicktory Life Youth Sports and my radio stuff and all the different things I'm doing. Melendez was the one that pulled me aside when I was running around Virginia Tech in my early 20s, being crazy. He was like, let me talk to you. And he would invite me down to speak when he was coaching at Heritage High School. And then he said, you know, people will pay you to do this and you have a certain gift. And he cultivated that gift and he challenged me. So it's crazy how our paths crossed, and then you and I competed against each other, and then we reconnected.
Right.
You know, so
right.
That's what
and I always keep up with Melendez. And man, look, just to end it, man. When I transferred to A&T, I made it known that like I was gonna be that guy. I was gonna be that guy that was going like this is gonna be my defense. But I had to look up who was the guy before me, and it was a guy named Demetrius Harrison, who literally just got inducted to the MEAC Hall of Fame and was awarded couple weeks ago 50 greatest football players in MEAC history.
Wow.
Right. He was a monster back in the late in like 86, 87, 88. He was a monster, right? 6'3", slim, middle linebacker, direct shot. But all his stats, like I went after his stuff. When I went to A&T, I was like, okay, I want his record. I want this. I want that. I want that. This is what I'm going after. Because I had already been through that. Melendez Byrd was that guy I was trying to emulate. I was trying to be better than. And when I got to ANC, like I want to be better than that guy. And I never really even I never met him until like 4 years ago through Facebook. But I followed him and everything I did. And me and him are real tight now. But that having something to go after and them footsteps, like I said earlier, and trying to pass them footsteps, you gotta have something.
Yo, so true, man. Well, once again, like I said earlier, man, thank you for jumping on, Tim. This has been great. You've been a great guest. I can't wait for everybody to check this out. And just a reminder to those that watch this video, this will air on our Vicktory Life Facebook page, on my personal Facebook page. And if you want to follow us on Instagram and YouTube, check us out at Vicktory Life, Vicktory Life. You see my man repping. If you want to get gear, you can check us out at victorylife.com. Click on the shop button. And also you can follow me on Twitter at Vic757 and Vicktory Life, VICK or TORY on Twitter. So there's different ways to check us out. Thank you again, Tim, to all the people that support Tim on behalf of Vicktory Life and Tim Johnson. I say thank you and appreciate us. Appreciate you for checking out us on this interview. And like I say, every week, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, make sure you have a positive impact and leave a great legacy. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you, man.
Sure, man. Appreciate it, man. Love you.
Love you too, boss.